Smart Home Budgeting, a quick guide for new homeowners. If you are in the market for a new house, you should also familiarize yourself with the cost of owning a home. Besides pre- and post-closing costs, inspection, mortgage, etc., you could incur other expenses. Don't go house hunting and fall in love with a home before you've analyzed your family's monthly budget. After the purchase, you might not be able to adjust your budget satisfactorily and could thus generate money headaches for yourself over a long period of time. Remember that buying a home ultimately can change your life and your budget. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. I'm very happy to have you today. I hope you are doing fantastic, and if you are doing as great as I am, go grab a cup of coffee. Let's roll. Now, today we want to talk about smart home budgeting. If you're a new homeowner, you want to pay attention to this. Number one, know the cost of owning a home. Now, it's very important. A lot of people think that when it comes to home ownership, the principal cost here is the mortgage. The mortgage payment is just the tip of the iceberg, really, if you think about it. You have other things you have to think about. Property taxes, insurance, right? You have utilities. I'm talking water, electric, garbage collections, internet and phone services. You have pest control. If you have termites, you need to have those things periodically. For the house, you also need to have maintenance and repair costs. So those are things that need to be budgeted. And basically, when you're a tenant, if you are in an apartment building and you rent, you really never think about those things, especially garbage collection, because the building takes care of it and passes on the cost to you. But if you are on your own and you have your own single family or double family home or condo, you would need to factor those costs into your budget. Another category of expenses that's very important is remodeling expenses. If you are not lucky that you bought a house that needs some remodeling, there are costs that may be a one-time, and in some cases regular if you have to do maintenance. So you got to think about all those things. Very, very important. Now, another thing that you have to think about here is that if you are in a neighborhood where you have a homeowners association, there are some dues that go along with those type of groups. So you want to really pay attention to that too, right? It's very important, especially if you live in a condo or a neighborhood with an HOA, right? So you want to pay attention to that. Now, another thing that's very, very, very important when it comes to home budgeting is to have a savings account. And I will talk about that in the second section, but it's very important that you sort of isolate all costs that relate to the house, all costs that relates to the property, so you can really know exactly what's going on and where your money is going. This is the only way. This is one of the surest way for you to monitor your expenses. All right, so know the cost of owning a home. Number two, you want to set up something called a homestead savings account, and you want to fund it. So a homestead savings account is simply a savings account that is dedicated 100% to the house. So in other words, every 2 weeks when you get your paycheck, or when you and your spouse get the paycheck, there is a small portion that goes to that account without even you looking at it. So it could be 5% of your salary or 10%, whatever works. You want to have a homestead savings account that would allow you not to really be scared anytime you have any costs that go along with the house in terms of renovation, in terms of maintenance, because you have already budgeted the money, right? This is very important. Now, some experts recommend having a homestead savings account lumped into an emergency fund. I sort of disagree with that, because an emergency fund, a rainy day fund, is totally different. It's for other reasons and should be kept separate. A rainy day fund is a fund that as the name implies, that's there when things are really bad, that when something extraordinary happens, when God forbid somebody gets into an accident and there is no disability is not enough to cover the person's income, then you tap into that. And rainy day funds usually should be somewhere between 6 and 18 months worth of living expenses. So if you spend, say, $1,000 every $2,000 every month, you want your rainy day fund to be at least to have at least 12 grand to 36 grand in it. So a rainy day fund is totally different from a homestead savings account. A homestead savings account should have money for unplanned home maintenance and repairs. All right. Some of this can be planned, some of this can be unplanned, right? Sometimes you have a annual preventative maintenance and repair cost, right? So that allows you to really maintain the property. Remember, your home is your number one asset, and you want to maintain it, right? You want to build equity in the home. Actually, we just did a great show about property management and property renovation, and we gave a lot of tips on how to keep your house, how to increase the equity in your house. You might want to double check that video when you get a chance. So number one, just to wrap up this section, number one, know the cost of owning a home. Number two, set up a homestead savings account and fund it. All right, I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Kiwi. If you like the content you're hearing so far, please consider subscribing to our channel and turn on the notification bell. Also, you might want to share, like, and comment below. Let us know what your experience is. Are you a new homeowner, or do you have you developed some kind of a budget approach? Let us know. Let everybody know. We want to hear from you. And number three, the third thing you need to do, you need to figure out your post-closing disposable income. Now, when it comes to smart home budgeting, after you close on the property and you acquire the property, you need to have a clear idea of how much income you have after paying everything. In other words, once you're able to catalog the expenses that are related to the house, you can basically figure out every month going forward how much is available. Now, remember that the part of the expenses, one such expense is the money you pay to the homestead savings account, right? It's very important. So let's say your combined, you and your spouse, your combined income is, say, net income is $5,000, right? So the mortgage is $2 grand. You put $100 in the homestead savings account, and you put an extra $400 in the rainy day account. So you only have $2,500 left as disposable income. Right now, it's not really disposable because you still need to pay other bills with that, right? So once you take other bills such as the transportation, food, insurance, you probably will be left with $1,000 or $500 in disposable income, depending upon your situation. Now, it's not really the amount that matters. It's more the number. In other words, it's not that whether you have a 1,000 disposable income or 2,000, it doesn't really matter. What really matters is that you are sure about how much disposable income you have. And once you have that idea, you can decide what to do with it. Once you have that amount, you can decide whether you want to save it, you want to use it for entertainment, you want to travel, you want to fund a future travel, right? It's very important to also think about your existing debts. Maybe you can use that to pay down debt, to repay your credit card, right? Or student loan or car loan, right? Because when you think about budgeting for home ownership, you want to think about not only the present, but also the future. So you're thinking about that, but also retirement. So that extra cash, that disposable cash, can also be put into a retirement account. All right. Number four, monitor your budget regularly, and you want to adjust spending accordingly, right? So you want to plan a regular review of the budget, right? So if you have maybe once a month or once a quarter, depending upon the family situation. If you have a lot of expenses and you have a large family, then you want to review the budget more often. If not, you can review. It's pretty okay to review this on a quarterly basis, but you need to do this, right? Because you want to identify what changes in your liquidity, what changes in your cash flows might affect your situation, not just the maintenance and the equity in the property, but also the other budget items, other areas of your life. What I'm trying to say is that if you monitor the budget regularly, you are more likely to catch mistakes or issues beforehand, very early on in the process, and you can make adjustments. And this is very important. Remember that there are certain things that may affect your utility bills, for instance, or the maintenance and repair schedule of the house. For instance, weather, right? Or seasonal changes, right? Or for instance, you have some sudden change in the industry, in the property sector. The real estate sector is a very sensitive sector. It's the cornerstone of the global economy. So changes in that sector might affect other sectors, right? There you have this ripple effect. So you want to constantly monitor your budget to see what's really happening and see whether or not there is enough money in your homestead savings account to fund future maintenance and repair costs. And this is very important. I'll be right back right after this. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, folks, to another edition of Sweetie Q. We are about to wrap up today's show, and I gave you a quick guide for new homeowners here, and I talked about 4 things. You want to know the cost of owning a home. You want to set up a homestead savings account, and you want to fund it. This is very important. You want to fund it. Number 3, you want to figure out your post-closing disposable income. How much do you have left after paying everything, after acquiring the property, And number 4, you want to monitor your budget regularly, and you want to adjust spending in other areas accordingly. All right. Now, here is today's pro tip. Now, a good way to manage liquidity, to manage cash flows as you walk into your new home, is to get something called HELOC, a home equity line of credit. If you build enough equity in the property, either through maintenance or repairs, you can actually sort of save a little bit. You can put a little less pressure on your cash flows by borrowing, right? So you're borrowing against the property. So HELOC is a great way to mitigate the short-term liquidity crunches that home repairs and maintenance projects sometimes have, because depending upon the problem, you might be either paying a few $100 or thousands of bucks. Right, so this is really where getting a loan, such a loan, will help you, go forward. So, for instance, if you have, let's say you bought the property for $200,000, and after 2 years, 3 years, you're very lucky. The neighborhood is growing, and the property is now worth $225,000. So you have equity of $25,000, 225 minus 200,000. So you have $25,000 in home equity, and you can apply for a HELOC, maybe $10,000 or $5,000. So you use that $5,000 to finance further maintenance and repair projects, as opposed to tapping into your own savings account or your own homestead savings account. All right. Thanks so much for listening to me. I will see you next time. Until then, remember, stay marvelous.